The following video will contain information on the Terra leak, which was a giant event that happened where a terabyte worth of information on both past, present, and future Pokemon games from GameFreak were hacked from the company. We will not be discussing spoilers in this video. While Legend ZA and Gen 10 and other things are out there, we will not be discussing them in this video. So if you're trying to avoid spoilers, this video is safe for you. Welcome back to the post where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're going to be talking about the Terra leak. So this was something that happened kind of October, kind of August of 2024. Basically, in August of 2024, someone hacked GameFreak, and from this hack, we're able to steal a terabyte's worth of information from GameFreak. Now, this information included things on past Pokemon games, such as cut content from the Generation 6 games, Pokemon X and Y, also some scrapped games that, seemingly were being developed by Game Freak, but then ultimately were scrapped altogether. This terabyte of information even included information on Legend ZA and even the 10th generation of Pokemon. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, we will not be discussing the specific things that were posted there, so this is going to be a spoiler-free video, but I just kind of wanted to talk about the Terra leak, talk about the aftermath, because there is an aftermath, and also talk about just, how crazy this was. I think that a lot of people kind of see this stuff leaking and are wondering where it's come from, so this is kind of a place to figure it all out. So yeah, like I said, in August of 2024, Game Freak gets hacked. Now, look, I am not a technical person at all when it comes to mining, hacking, any of that stuff. Nor would I want to be. Hacking's bad. But anywho, this, from what I've been told, this hack was pretty bad on Game Freak's part. And what I mean by that is, while Game Freak is, of course, not responsible for their stuff getting hacked, they pretty much left the door. The way it was described to me was it was like the equivalent of, for the record, it was described to me this way by people who do know what they're talking about. It was basically the equivalent of Game Freak leaving the door locked, but then taping the key on the underside of the knob. So, yeah, it's technically locked, but here's the key. I'm in. So yeah, it's definitely kind of an issue of security at Game Freak, and I'm sure that they have now kind of reanalyzed how they're doing things and changed some stuff. At the time of the Terra leak, when it first started going public, people were assuming it was from a phishing email. That is not the case. It was a direct just hack on Game Freak. Someone was able to find a Git, I think they call it. Anywho, they were able to access it. But yeah, in August, they were able to get this information. And then in October, they started leaking it to the public. Now, the person in question, this was a person who was going by the alias Game Freak Out. They stated from the very beginning, they were like, look, this is all we have. We've got stuff on pretty much every game up until now. And we do have some stuff on future games. Specifically, we have stuff on Pokemon Legend ZA, which was huge at the time, because you have to think, October 2024, we actually hadn't seen gameplay footage of Legend ZA. At this point, we had only gotten a little animated reveal trailer, but no concrete, gameplay. But no, here it was, this person had it. They also had access to the earliest build probably of the Generation 10 games, which many people expect will probably come out in 2026. And then they even had some coding for some other things, they had coding for something called Pokemon Synapse. They didn't give any information on this, but we now know that Pokemon Synapse is Pokemon Champions, which was announced in the Pokemon Direct or Pokemon Presents on Pokemon Day 2025. Now, Game Freak Out made it clear from the beginning that while they had access to this information, they would not be leaking it to the public. They were like, hey, we're not going to be giving out any of the Gen 10 stuff or any of the Legend ZA stuff because we don't want to spoil it for you all. They did, however, say that the build that they had of Legend ZA was playable. They said they were able to start to finish the game with only a few issues, like some side stuff not being fully filled in, and then also they said that the final battles did have some placeholders in there instead of being fully coded in yet. So yeah, also some bugs throughout it. which is pretty impressive to know because Legends EA is releasing later on in 2025, and again, the build that they got from August 2024, and very likely it's a build from even a little before that. So that is interesting to know that Legends EA is pretty far along in the development process at this point. Now, they did start giving out some information, though, and not for the games that were going to be coming up, but for past games. We got beta Pokemon from Generation 3, we got cut content from Generation 6, beta Pokemon from Generations 4 and 5. We even got some cut content information on the Generation 7 games, Pokemon Sun and Moon. So, yeah, it contained a lot of information. Again, though, the Terra Leaker GameFreak out made it very clear we are not posting anything on Legends EA or on Generation 10. Well, fast forward a little bit later. People in the community around February of 2025 start getting some information. How they got this information is unclear, but it seems to be directly related to the Terra Leak, as this information contained not only information on Legends EA, but also information on Generation 10. Now, some of these accounts did start revealing this stuff, and basically what happened was it kind of became a clout race, and I'm sure that if the people who, were leaking this stuff saw this video, they'd want to say it's not for clout, but guys, I'm going to be real with you, it was for clout. Also, the Terra Leaker, the reason he did it was also for clout, and you might go, no, he didn't do it for clout. Why else would you do it? Why else would you do it? You're putting yourself, you hacked a company and stole a terabyte's worth of information. That's a lot of information, guys. Like, seriously, that's a lot of information. Also, too, that information did include some stuff on GameFreak employees, like personal information on GameFreak employees, so definitely a no-go there. Yeah, huge legal risks. He's not doing it for money because he's not getting paid by anyone, so the only other answer is clout. I'm sorry, it is clout. I hope I didn't hurt any of your feelings, but also I don't care, it was clout. But anyways, what happens when these multiple different accounts got this information? Basically, it started with someone posting a Legends EA leak. Well, then it becomes a thing of like, oh, well, John over there has posted this, and I want people to know that I have information too. So I'm gonna say, hey guys, I also heard what John heard, and if you don't believe me, here's a little extra for you. And then another person goes, oh man, well, John and now Lumi are leaking stuff. Well, I need to get in there too, because I knew things too. So yes, guys, I also heard what John and Lumi heard, and also I heard this. And basically it gets to the point where now Legends EA is largely spoiled. Anything that would be added after the build that GameFreak out had access to, that would still be like, a surprise to fans, but everything else is out there on the internet. Again, not going to be talking about it here, but it is out there. Then with Generation 10, even images of the build from that game started leaking. So that gets kind of bad too. And those images did have implications for stuff that could be going on in Generation 10. Now, at this time, no new Pokemon have leaked for Generation 10, so no starters, no legendaries, nothing like that. It's nothing huge. We won't be talking about, again, what did leak, but the point is that it is all out there. Here's where it gets interesting, though. So we flash forward to today. We're here in April 2025 is when I'm recording this. And basically, Nintendo has had enough. And Nintendo has actually subpoenaed Discord. So Discord had, there was a Discord server that was where the GameFreak out person was leaking their stuff. It was where they were posting their files. And it was where people were digging through the findings. And yeah, Nintendo subpoenaed Discord, which basically means Nintendo's going, hey, Discord, someone broke the law and violated, our copyright. So you now have to give up the identity of that person. Normally, Discord does allow you to remain anonymous. They're not just like giving out your information to everyone. However, if you do something illegal, or you were to announce in a Discord server or Discord chat that you have plans to do something illegal, Discord, just like really any kind of social media, reserves the right to basically go, okay, well, we have to prevent that crime. So, or we have to, make this person pay for that crime. So we are going to kind of violate the privacy, and we are going to figure out who you are and let the law enforcement do what they need to do. And that's exactly what's happening here. Is GameFreak out has violated Nintendo's copyright. They have, has stolen, this is so different from other leaks. Like in the past, these leaks usually are someone at Game Freak, whether it's like a translator or it's someone actually working on the game. Normally it happens from Game Freak. Someone takes the stuff and starts sending it out. Maybe they do it directly, maybe they send it to another person, then that person sends it to a person, and eventually that person posts it on 4chan or something. But either way, it usually comes directly from Game Freak. But this time it was different. Someone took it from Game Freak, right? They went in there and just stole it. It's kind of like, imagine that you're a dad and, your kid goes into your bedroom and steals a 20 out of your wallet. It's not good, but at least it's your kid. Now imagine some other guy breaks into your home and steals a 20. You're a lot more offended and you're a lot more angry with that person. And also, too, like I said, normally when it does come from Game Freak, it's small little bits, right? Like we've gotten 4chan posts where it's like, here's a few things that's in the game. And it's pretty light. In fact, I think you can make the argument that it actually serves the community well because it gets them excited about it. It gives them just enough to get excited, but not so much that people are like, well, great, the game's ruined for me. But this time, no, it's everything. It's everything. This guy got everything, at least up to the build that he has of both Generation 10 and Legend ZA. So yeah, it's not a great thing. It's not a great thing. Now, what's going to happen from here is, like I said, Nintendo has already subpoenaed Discord. Discord has deleted the server that the Terra Leaker was in, and they've also, I think, put the mods of that server. They've, issued some kind of ban on them or something. I don't think they're going to be facing any kind of legal repercussions, but they are facing, some Discord repercussions because they did violate rules, violate Discord's own rules and guidelines, right? So, yeah, that's what happened. What does this mean? Well, for one, it means Game Freak will be stepping up their security, which is always a good thing. A company should be able to do that. If, again, the description I was given is accurate, that Game Freak locked the door but basically taped the key to the underside of the knob, probably need to change that, Game Freak. But also, this could mean something bad for Legend ZA or Generation 10. Fact of the matter is, the build for Legend ZA is out there. Maybe only the Terra Leaker has it. Maybe he gave it to a friend. Maybe that friend's now giving it to a friend. Maybe that friend has decided in a few days, he decides, I'm going to post it on the internet. So that's one issue, is that the build could go online. I don't think that'll happen. I imagine that's something that the Terra Leaker's kept pretty close to his own heart and not given out to anybody. But we'll see, especially too, now that Nintendo's going after him, it is a thing of, you could wonder, what else does he have to lose? And that might be an argument for him to post stuff. I hope he doesn't. At the end of the day, this guy did something very illegal, and he should face jail time, and he probably will. So, yeah, guys, the moral of the story is don't mess with the Nintendo ninjas. Another thing I do kind of want to touch on about this, because it is kind of interesting, is that the Terra Leaker actually did not leak out these Gen 10 and these Legend ZA information. I've heard two variants of the story. One is that he sent it to some friends, and another is that he streamed it privately for some friends. And those friends, turns out, didn't intend for it to be so private and were screenshotting it and sending it out. So, it's funny, I had a call yesterday with the two co-hosts of my podcast, Dusty Go-Go and Soul Silver Art, and we were talking about it. And I was telling them, I was like, it's the equivalent to imagine that I hack Game Freak and I get all this information, which is wrong on me. Again, I really want that to be clear. But then I end up deciding, hey, I'm going to show it to Dusty and Soul. And so I'm playing the game in front of them. But unbeknownst to me, Dusty or Soul, or maybe even both of them, are screenshotting it and posting it or sending it to large accounts that will post the information. Things like that. that's basically what happened. So I can only imagine that GameFreak out has to be pretty upset because his friends betrayed him. Nintendo wasn't going after this guy in October when the beta stuff was leaking. They only subpoenaed Discord now, after all this information on Legends EA and Gen 10, including images, have leaked. Only then have they subpoenaed Discord. So that guy might have been fine. Like, Nintendo might have deemed it not worth it until his friend freaking betrayed him. So be careful who you trust. Don't mess with Nintendo. And guys, if it's not yours, don't take it.